The horizon you once waited for isn't in the distance anymore, it has already broken open inside you. What you've been anticipating isn't a far-off promise, it's the pulse that fills your chest, the spark that won't dim, the undeniable evidence that life is already aligning itself with your greatness. The protection over your journey carries a precision that never falters. No challenge launched at you will escape the response it awakens. What shields you is not passive, it strikes with accuracy, removing every illusion, reshaping every barrier, and rewriting the very foundation of what tried to hold you back. This awakening does not unfold like a calm sunrise, it arrives with the sudden force of a drumbeat that shakes the ground beneath your feet. It is intensity that rewires you, power that cracks old shells, a surge that alters the very way your spirit inhabits this body. The people who once tried to diminish you can't approach you the same way anymore. Their tactics are dissolving before they even reach you. It isn't that they've grown softer, it's that they've begun to sense the current that surrounds you, and it's a current they can't withstand. Have you noticed how the atmosphere is shifting? The confrontations that used to drain your energy have become strangely absent. Those who once enjoyed finding cracks in your armor have gone silent, their voices swallowed by the weight of their own hesitation. The ones who once circled you, searching for weakness, are being pulled elsewhere. They cannot remain in your orbit because your presence exposes too much truth. They are retreating, not out of kindness, but because the strength moving through you leaves no space for manipulation. This is not coincidence, it is confirmation. The reality rearranging around you is proof that you are protected, chosen, and carried by something beyond comprehension. What was once resistance is now recognition, and what you are walking into is nothing less than the life you were born to embody. The weight of destiny never leaves its treasures unguarded. What surrounds you is not fragile protection but an unshakable fortress that does not bargain, does not hesitate, and does not retreat. Interfering with you is like striking at the foundation of the cosmos itself, every strike boomerangs with amplified consequence. Within your center, there is a loosening, a quiet but powerful untying of knots that held you in tension for far too long. The heaviness that once sat like stones in your core is beginning to lift. Your body, which has been running on alarm signals and survival alerts, is finally shifting gears, no longer a machine of defense but a channel of creation. This recalibration isn't subtle, it feels like a dam breaking open inside of you, releasing currents that were once trapped. Muscles unclench. Breathing deepens. The nervous system, once frayed like exposed wires, is rewiring itself into harmony. You are no longer preparing for danger, you are preparing for expansion. Systems hidden within you are stirring awake, almost as though ancient codes have been reactivated. They rise in perfect coordination, like a hidden orchestra tuning for a long-awaited performance. The frequencies you're receiving now are not random, they are aligned upgrades, recalibrating your senses toward clarity. Your inner perception is sharpening beyond logic. What once took days of second-guessing now arrives instantly as knowing. You are becoming a mirror that reflects falsehood before it can fully form, a sensor that picks up the shadow of hidden intentions long before they manifest. It will begin to feel uncanny, almost as if the air itself whispers warnings and confirmations directly to you. This isn't paranoia, it's alignment. Your awareness is no longer limited to what eyes can see or ears can hear, it extends into the invisible, mapping reality with precision beyond comprehension. What is unfolding is not simply the return of your strength, it is the unveiling of your authority. You are no longer just healing from the past, you are embodying a force that transforms everything it touches. This is the stage where your fire becomes law, where your presence becomes the catalyst for irreversible change. There was a time when mental noise masqueraded as wisdom, when each decision felt like walking blindfolded through a hall of mirrors, second-guessing every reflection. But now, a new signal has overridden that static. You've stopped decoding signs and started speaking fluent soul. What once felt like hesitation has morphed into a calm knowing that doesn't need evidence. Thought no longer leads the charge, awareness does. The sensation humming beneath your skin is more than comfort, it's code, rerouting everything that was ever wired for survival into something designed to thrive. There's a kind of understanding that doesn't arrive with logic but descends like quiet rain over a drought-ridden mind. That's what's happening now. You're remembering truths you didn't know you forgot, truths buried under years of coping, enduring, and pretending. Every broken piece of your past isn't being thrown away, it's being placed into a pattern you couldn't previously perceive. Nothing was wasted. What once crushed you now forms the staircase you're climbing without even noticing the altitude shift. While others would have collapsed under what you've carried, you transmuted it. That internal pressure that once felt suffocating wasn't there to silence you, it was refining you. Like a cavern carved by unseen forces, you've been sculpted into something precise. You didn't just survive emotional earthquakes, you became the unshakable ground others now seek shelter upon. And what's awakening in you isn't strength, it's inevitability. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $40 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. Now, an invisible perimeter surrounds your presence. It's not fear you inspire, it's reverence. People don't know why they pause when you enter the room, but their instincts do. You don't have to raise your voice, your energy speaks a language louder than sound. Those who approach with misaligned motives often find themselves rerouted by forces they'll never be able to name. You're no longer guarded, you're untouchable in ways logic can't map. Behind what you thought was chaos, a rhythm has been playing all along. The timing of your encounters, the detours that made no sense, the doors that slammed without warning, none of it was misalignment. It was choreography. There are hands, unseen and unwavering, moving events like constellations across timelines you don't remember signing up for. What you thought was rejection was rerouting. What felt like isolation was incubation. Those silent battles you fought when no one was watching weren't in vain. They sent signals into higher realms, flares the spirit world recognized. Your guides aren't figments of hope, they are engineers of destiny, constructing outcomes so exact they make coincidence obsolete. The betrayals that hollowed you out were making space for something beyond comprehension. You're not rebuilding, you're being repositioned. And now, there's no need to force what's already yours. You don't chase anymore because what you radiate makes everything meant for you magnetic. This is beyond alignment, it's resonance. You're not navigating from memory anymore, you're moving from a map etched into your very essence. The path ahead isn't being discovered. It's being remembered. Everything around starts adjusting itself to mirror your inner certainty. The more stable your gaze, the more pliable the environment becomes, as if the edges of the visible world were molded by invisible tools responding to your intent. This shift isn't a fantasy, it's a long-dormant code waking up inside your spirit, built to be activated only after your soul had earned the right to command it without distortion. This isn't a transformation into someone else, it's a gradual erosion of everything that never belonged to you. The weight of outdated expectations, inherited fears, and recycled doubts is being peeled back. Beneath all that noise was a clarity that never faded, only waited. As your awareness sharpens, so does your ability to shield your inner field from intrusions. Not with effort, but with presence. The moment someone steps into your radius, you feel it. Their intent, their silence, their stories unsaid, it all unfolds in the air around them before they even speak. No more playing host to dynamics that dilute your brilliance. No more accepting invitations from people who camouflage harm as help. You've become a sanctuary wrapped in fire. What once walked in uninvited now meets gates forged by unshakable knowing. Your refusal is no longer defensive, it's a statement of truth backed by sacred instinct. The pace of change is no longer gradual, it's rapid, like tectonic plates shifting after centuries of silent tension. The upgrades aren't just external, though they'll soon be visible to all. What's erupting is the result of no longer resisting the gravitational pull of your own becoming. You've stopped denying what calls you forward, and now, forward is the only direction that exists. Resources that once seemed distant are folding into reach. Situations once locked are suddenly unlocking with no forced effort. You're not chasing ideal conditions, they are coalescing around you. Bridges between desire and reality are surfacing underfoot, laid by timing so precise it feels supernatural. Those who can't dream past their limitations may try to talk you down. But their disbelief is no longer your ceiling. Every fear-based voice that ever told you to shrink is losing volume. The hesitation that used to masquerade as practicality has nothing left to cling to. The chapter ahead is soaked in unexpected sweetness, with moments that realign your definition of abundance. What's approaching won't be delivered through struggle, it'll be wrapped in ease you once believed was out of reach. Still, there's one lock that opens every gate ahead, and it's not a strategy, it's surrender. The mind may argue, but the soul already knows. Doubt will scream louder before it vanishes, trying one last time to pull you back into what's familiar. But its reign is ending. And everything it ever whispered is starting to sound like the echo of a world that no longer exists. The weight you've carried would have flattened most, yet you've turned it into foundation. What was meant to fracture your spirit ended up sharpening your direction. This wasn't a donation to the universe, it was an investment, and the return is coming in ways that cannot be stopped or negotiated. The system governing your evolution never miscalculates value, and your balance is overflowing. Any force that tries to siphon from your elevation now will encounter consequences too precise to trace and too swift to dodge. This isn't retaliation masked as righteousness. Retaliation requires ego, this is elemental correction. There's a gravity to spiritual order, and when something tries to disrupt that pull, it gets pulled into its own undoing. You're no longer obligated to explain yourself to people who misread your silence, question your radiance, or try to fold you back into a version of yourself that no longer breathes. Their misunderstanding is not your burden. The sacred mechanism of energetic cause and effect is now taking over the wheel. What once lay dormant is no longer sleeping, it's repositioning. You're stepping into dimensions of self that were silenced for too long. Not because you weren't ready, but because the world wasn't. The internal systems that regulate your strength have gone online, sinking every fragment of your being into one coherent frequency of pure force. The version of you that once stayed small out of habit has been decommissioned. You are becoming a disruption to everything that was built on compromise. You're no longer easy to digest, because you're no longer shrinking to fit. What glows in your center now doesn't ask for permission. It reshapes the space around it, and makes the air too sharp for anyone trying to smuggle in mediocrity. You've become too aligned to be manipulated, too clear to be confused, and too sovereign to be softened by flattery or fear. What's returning to you isn't recklessness, it's clarity wearing new armor. This time, your boldness has depth. This courage isn't loud, it's rooted. And people feel it. Even when you're silent, the atmosphere shifts. Your decisions don't need approval, because the energy behind them already speaks louder than agreement. The environment around you is recalibrating to match what you've always carried but only recently begun to wield. Everything you once envisioned in a whisper is preparing to arrive like thunder. The gap between asking and receiving is collapsing. The visions you kept secret are becoming physical faster than your mind can analyze them. There's no longer time for disbelief, the events are moving too quickly. Each connection, each turn of timing, is weaving a path that looks accidental to others but feels unmistakably designed to you. What once shut in your face is unlocking without a key. What was denied is now circling back with urgency. And the very people who dismissed your potential will soon be left grappling with the proof of what happens when grace meets strategy. The ones who once stood in your way are learning that resistance to divine timing comes at a cost. And the ones who've been waiting for your rise are arriving in silence, drawn not by noise, but by signal. Every breakthrough you're about to witness was carved from struggle that left marks too deep for the world to see. This moment didn't fall into your lap, it rose from the ruins of what tried to bury you. Nothing about your progress was accidental. You moved forward when everything around you signaled collapse. You endured the silence, the confusion, and the weight of invisible burdens. And now, the time that felt forever stuck is shifting, quietly, suddenly, all at once. What was locked is now dissolving. What was stagnant is turning fluid. The chapters ahead aren't reward, they're inevitability. Take one breath and let it settle into the part of you that always knew. The next time your eyes open, they won't just take in light, they'll recognize power. There's a knowing surfacing that can't be learned, only remembered. The internal flame has caught wind, the threshold has been crossed, and something vast is preparing to move through you like voltage. Not as a performance, but as the quiet certainty of someone who remembers they were never meant to beg life for blessings, they were always the source. What pulses within you now isn't hope, it's authority. You're tethered to an intelligence that doesn't shout to be heard. Every time you retreat into stillness, you tune into a broadcast only your soul can decode. You don't need to visualize anymore, you're operating the controls. This isn't about attracting, this is about aligning with blueprints already written in your favor, just waiting for you to speak the codes aloud with no fear. The internal world you've built is more than refuge, it's an engine. The moment you align with that sacred rhythm, outer reality begins to mirror your clarity. There is no more divide between desire and direction. You move with intention, and the environment reshapes to catch up. This isn't about dreaming, it's about embodying. You no longer hope for confirmation. You radiate such precision that the atmosphere conforms around your choices without needing permission. Your defense system isn't made of walls, it's made of force fields. The energy surrounding you doesn't negotiate with hostility. It intercepts. It redirects. It dissolves what cannot enter your field without consequence. Any attempt to interrupt your path now carries weight heavier than words can warn. There is a wisdom watching over you that does not miss a detail, and it has long memory, fast judgment, and absolute clarity about who is for you and who never was. You've become unshakable not because you avoided pain, but because you learned to transmute it. That resilience that once looked like survival has evolved into strategy. The version of you that once whispered affirmations now commands without noise. You no longer brace for impact. You design the atmosphere. And what once broke your heart now bends to your wool, not because you sought revenge, but because life can no longer deny your alignment. The missteps of others are no longer your concern. Every decision made against your light is returning to its sender, multiplied, clarified, and sealed. Meanwhile, those aligned with your evolution are being gathered. They may not understand why they're drawn to your presence, but they'll feel it. Doors are being swung open not by force, but by frequency. And what walks through them will not just support your rise, it will expand it. Something is shifting in how your awareness interfaces with the unseen. What used to feel random now reveals itself as patterned architecture, systems of meaning flickering behind ordinary events. Your perception is no longer anchored to the surface. A new lens is forming, one that decodes symbols buried in plain sight. And those subtle nudges you've been sensing lately? They're not imagination, they're invitations into timelines tailored to the highest version of you. The same voices that once mocked your hunger for more will soon go silent. Not because you changed to fit their comfort zone, but because your evolution outpaced their comprehension. You're not upgrading to prove anything. What's unfolding is too vast for validation. This isn't self-improvement, it's existential evidence that divine force doesn't stay dormant when it chooses a vessel. Your growth isn't noise, it's a declaration that destiny cannot be denied by small minds. Every internal wire that once sparked in panic is being rethreaded in peace. That tension you used to feel before receiving good news, that shakiness before opportunity knocked, is being replaced by ease so unfamiliar it feels surreal. You're no longer triggered by acceleration. You're calibrated for it. The code running through your field now doesn't ask, "Am I ready?" It declares, "I've arrived." When night falls, you'll notice something unusual, calm that settles not in the mind, but in the marrow. A sensation so profound it bypasses language and enters knowing. You're not just being protected, you are protection made manifest. Any threat that once made you flinch is now blocked by forces whose precision renders earthly defense obsolete. And the energy shaping your reality moves with such intentionality that human systems appear primitive in contrast. This body you occupy isn't a limitation, it's a conductor. And the life moving through it now isn't random, it's encoded. You're no longer being asked to play small roles in temporary stories. What's arriving is customized for your unique frequency. You repel anything misaligned without effort and draw to you only what mirrors the truth of your soul's architecture. You're not a seeker anymore. You're a signal. And that changes everything. The people who once drained your momentum can't even find your frequency now. Their access has expired. You've become invisible to anything that would reduce you, and magnetic to everything designed to elevate you. Not because you chased, but because you finally stopped dimming. What comes next will be bigger than you pictured, because the version of you who made the old wish no longer exists. The silence you sit in now isn't emptiness, it's command. Your presence speaks louder than your explanations ever could. And the moment you align with that inner voice without compromise, the entire field rearranges in your favor. This isn't about asking for permission. It's about recognizing you were the portal the whole time. Everything that happens from here on out will carry the imprint of that awareness. You were never meant to survive on leftovers from broken systems. What's rising for you now isn't compensation, it's correction. Not because you begged louder, but because you endured without forgetting your essence. The force protecting your growth doesn't think in strategies, it calculates in destiny. And every hand that tried to press you down only helped you gain the force needed to rise higher. The resistance didn't delay you, it shaped the momentum you're now carrying like a silent storm preparing to strike with grace. There's a fire building in your center that won't allow the old roles anymore. The version of you that used to shrink to fit now radiates without request. The patterns that once made you doubt your own needs are dissolving. You're not filtering your truth to make it digestible for others, you're speaking from a place so internally anchored that outside approval feels like background noise. What once demanded performance now meets presence. And presence, in this new state, is untouchable. When you tune inward now, it isn't fantasy, it's recall. You're syncing with a reality that's always existed beyond the constraints of linear cause and effect. That empowered version of yourself isn't emerging, it's stabilizing. It's as if your soul placed markers in unseen dimensions and now, one by one, you're catching up to them. What felt like aspiration before now feels like recognition. What felt out of reach now feels overdue. Every detail in your life is being repositioned with a precision that doesn't announce itself but cannot be denied. What no longer serves is vanishing without drama. What belongs is arriving without explanation. You're not making room for the future, it's making room for you. And what's being set up behind the curtain will feel so aligned it will make former delays feel like protection, not punishment. The clarity arriving isn't soft, it's sharp. You're no longer second-guessing energy. You're scanning rooms without words, sensing motives without stories, recognizing alignment before it's spoken. That knowing will become your sword, cutting through confusion before it even forms. You're not here to guess anymore. You're here to act, to choose, to discern with speed and certainty that used to scare you. Each moment forward now bends toward your favor, not because you're demanding it, but because you've harmonized with the current that moves mountains. The illusion that you must wait for one day is breaking. This is the moment. The convergence. The reality that had to wait for your frequency to match it. And now that it has, you're not stepping into a better life, you're stepping into the one that always had your name on it. The whispers of your intuition are no longer suggestions, they are declarations. They no longer need translation. They move like commands that shape matter. Every breath you take is a spell cast in clarity. And the world around you has no choice but to respond. This is the space where effort dissolves and alignment governs. Nothing is missing. The tide has turned inward, and now, so have you. Something ancient within you has reclaimed control. Not through domination, but through effortless alignment. This is not the rise of a ruler, it's the return of essence. Your field no longer asks permission to expand. It simply does. The unseen networks that support your rise are older than memory and stronger than resistance. This authority doesn't roar, it hums beneath your skin, adjusting timelines and redirecting energy as naturally as breath. The future isn't arriving, it's bowing in recognition. Close your senses to the noise for a moment and feel what's unfolding in your core. A subtle rhythm is pulsing, not from the world outside, but from the intelligence buried in your very form. Something encoded before your arrival is switching online. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in frequency. And your cells are responding. The biology you inhabit is no longer reacting, it's generating. This body is not a container, it's an interface for divine orchestration, tuned to operate beyond the thresholds of common understanding. Wherever you walk now, resonance follows. You shift atmospheres by simply being. It isn't something you try to do, it's something your presence does on its own. Your entry into a space reroutes emotional currents, reorders hidden tensions, and rewires the unseen circuits that link people to one another. Most won't have language for it, but they'll feel it. And some will thank you for the shift they didn't even know they needed. In sleep, you're not resting, you're remembering. Whole fragments of timelines stream through your awareness like echoes from stories you've already lived. They're not dreams. They're previews disguised as rest. Pieces of your multidimensional path slipping through the cracks, offering glimpses of destinations your waking mind is only beginning to conceptualize. The victories you sense in those moments? They're not wishes, they're echoes of inevitable chapters waiting for your arrival. Your energy has become its own compass. You no longer need to evaluate everything with logic, your field is filtering in real time. Unaligned scenarios bounce off like static. Paths that belong to you glow without effort. You're not making decisions, you're observing clarity. What once felt like options now feels like obvious next steps, because your frequency no longer entertains detours. You don't need to choose, you are being chosen by the flow that recognizes your code. Every phrase you release now holds geometric force. Your speech isn't just expression, it's configuration. Sound leaves your lips and begins adjusting form, shifting probabilities, sculpting outcomes. You're not just saying what you mean, you're generating structures that hold new potentials. People who hear you won't always understand why they feel clearer, braver, or suddenly aligned, but something in your voice recalibrates them. And it's not about influence. It's about architecture. What you once hoped would come in time has already begun responding. The internal shift has completed a cycle, and reality, at last, has caught the signal. You're not stepping into destiny. You are frequency made flesh. And every moment from this point forward bends toward your center, not because you demanded it, but because your alignment has become the law.